There we go. All right, this is the Annunciation Latin class, or in Latin, Annunciationis Classis Latina. And this is the first class, and so we will be working with pronunciation, because if you can't pronounce it, you really can't speak it, write it, learn it, whatever. Now, I always start out with an opening prayer. And it's the Ave Maria. You may know it, you may not. Wing it. I reordered these slides about 10 times, trying to figure out what order to put them in, and I finally gave up and put them in this order because there are some things that are necessarily out of order, or not out of order, but we have to talk about first. But let's start with our opening prayer, and I will mute everybody. If you've never had a um, Zoom meeting before where everybody tried to talk, it's a mess. So I'm going to mute everybody here and we'll recite it together. If you don't know it, don't worry about it. We'll wing it. And part of the goal of this class, this first class, is to work on pronunciation. So oh, wow, we're still getting a bunch of people in. All right, here we go. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Mute everybody. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. So, what we're going to do today is we had an opening prayer, and we're going to work on the pronunciation of the Latin language. So let's get started. And the reason we're starting is if you can't pronounce it, you can't speak it, read it, write it, learn it, etc. So we're going to be using what's known as the Italianate method. There we go. And that is the preferred method for speaking with ecclesiastical Latin. I have three references down here, one from Collins, one from Mary Perkins, Your Catholic Language, and then there is a website, Eterna Latina, which is has a nice little chart if you are interested. I will send these notes out later, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And you can actually click on that if you want. And with that, let's move right in on things. Now, English vowels sound, I should say sounds very all over the place. And in fact, vary, as in change, it's same pronounced as very, V-E-R-Y. So, and then of course we have comb, tomb, bomb, cook, and spook. And so, you know, English vowels are very, you don't know the sound necessarily. Consonants in English are not much better. We have ghost, but then we have rough, though, through, and thorough. So figure that out. So English, Latin is much easier to pronounce than English, fortunately for us, because the Latin alphabet, which is what we use today, or the Roman alphabet, depending upon what you want to refer to it as, was originally designed for the Latin language. So Latin vowels have only two sounds, a long sound and a short sound, and that's it. So none of this funny business like comb, tomb, and bomb. Long O, short O type thing. Or actually comb is long O, tomb is like a U sound. So none of that. Uh, Latin vowels have only two sounds, a long and a short, as I said. Latin consonants generally have only one sound, and there are a couple of exceptions. Some consonants soften before certain vowels. Again, it's not a real big problem. So here's the vowels. Now, in the Latin word for vowels is vocales. And I'm going to use more and more Latin terms as we go on because you're learning the language and you need to be able to work in the language. And the natural method is to actually use the Latin terms for those items. But for now, I'm going to stick mostly to English because most of you are new. So the A, short A, is an A, as in Dinah. Long A is as in father. Notice you say Dinah, but in English you say father. So you actually stretch it out. Now it's the same sound in both cases. For Latin, it's the same sound in both cases. It's just a bit longer. And for E, it's in like a short E is a eh, like in get, pet, set. A long E is like an so neighbor, and or an The long and short are similar sounds, just longer, okay? Like the word they. The I is a short sound, as in fit, pit, or sit. The long I is as in machine, okay? It's kind of like a long E sound, right? We have in English. The O is short, off, soft, loft, kind of an aw sound. The long O is just like the English long O, no, note, or O. U is pretty easy. Short U is an sound, like in put, foot, soot. And notice that English spells those the words completely differently, even though they have the same sound. The long U is an oo sound, okay? Tuba, rude, ooh, okay? Whoop, hold on, got some more people. Yeah, there we go. For the latecomers, I apologize. The Zoom link was wrong. I don't know what happened. All right, getting back to this page. They have four diphthongs, and these are double vowels. The AE sound is like the long E. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to record this and post it to YouTube. So anybody that missed the early sections can go back there and review it. So the AE is like a long E. Uh, the AU is an ow sound, like an out or ouch, or maybe the O in how. Okay. The OE in ecclesiastical Latin is the same as the AE. Okay. And you may have, whoops, I think I'm going to turn on auto admit. Okay. The AE, sorry, you may have seen the word caelum if you go to the Latin, or the Regina Caeli, or a number of other places. You may have seen the word caelum, Caelum, and caelum, Coelum. They are pronounced exactly the same. In classical Latin, there is a difference, but in ecclesiastical Latin, the AE and the OE are identically pronounced. And that's why, yeah, you're going to see the Regina Caeli, and you may see it Caeli, or you may see it Coeli. Just a variant in spelling. And we actually get to some of the variants here in a minute. And UI is like the vowel in fui. So makes sense. Ooh, E. We're actually pronounce both vowels kind of, and they're squished together. Any questions on that so far? and you may have to unmute. Yes? No? You're all hopelessly lost and have fallen asleep?
There's no question, Michael. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, you can either type it in the chat window or say it. That way I know at least you're not all asleep or I've lost you. Or the Zoom meeting is messed up yet again. So anyway, these vowels are pretty close to what you expect in English. Okay. The only one that's a little bit different is the long U sound. We try to um, uh, um, well, I'll talk about that later. Anyway, let's see. Next. Macrani or macrons. Now, we're going to use macrons, and those are the funny little markings over the vowels that are going to help us. Okay. Um, let's see. Okay, so dei is pronounced dei. Yes, dei is pronounced dei. Uh, this is these are macrons are training wheels. Okay. If you were to open up a Latin prayer book of, say, the 1800s, early 1800s, there would be no macrons whatsoever. Part of the reason for that is if this were the 1800s and you were educated, you have had multi-years of Latin, and so they would not be needed. Well, nobody here has had multi-years of Latin except for perhaps me. And even I need macrons every now and then to help me out. So this is the same as if you've seen macrons before, it's the same. A line over the vowel means it's long. So that is an a, e, o, u. If it's a short, it's a little, I don't know, what do you want to call that? Divot shape, cup shape, small U shape. Uh, it would be a, e, I, o, u. Okay. And generally speaking, since the vowel is, well, the vowel is either short or long. Okay, that's always the case. Usually the short vowels are not marked. Okay. So if they are marked, it's only to help clearly distinguish it as short, and I intentionally put it up here, macroni, as opposed to macaroni, which is, I think, a form of Italian pasta, no doubt. So generally speaking, I will only mark the long vowels, like up here, pronunciatio. I've only marked the long vowels. So lastly is the accent mark, which marks a stressed syllable. So that way we say syllable and not syllable. I won't use those too often, but there are places where that will be snuck in. And as I said, we're going to make use of those to help us pronounce our Latin correctly, because we wouldn't want to make a faux pas in front of the Pope or something if we're invited to tea or something, right? So now, one more word about vowels before we move on. English speakers, and this is true of other Europeans, will sometimes make a short vowel long when it becomes accented or before certain other vowels. And that has to do with the fact that uh, just the fact that our mouths haven't been trained to make certain sounds. Okay. The one that you usually see most often is Dominus. There's a Dominus vobiscum in Mass. The Lord be with you. The do is short as in dot. So it's not dominus, it's dominus. Now, we often hear, though, dominus vobiscum, making both O's long. And the reason for that is twofold. One, singing. Okay. Do we have anybody in in the choir? Yeah. Do we have anybody in choir here, the Schola? Yeah, I'll bet there are people who used to be in choir. In choir, in the Liber Usualis, you'll usually see that they want to make everything long. And that is an accommodation to make it easier to sing. It's very hard to sing do as opposed to do. Okay. That's okay. Hey, it's perfectly understandable. And you will often hear Dominus vobiscum because of that, but it's the correct or let's say the better. It's not right. It's not wrong, but it's also not quite right. So you really want to say Dominus vobiscum. So try and work on it. Now, I realize this is new and there's probably going to be a certain amount of frustration, but don't get too worried about it. We're going to be practicing this over time, working on it. We're going to be listening to Latin and improving it. And it's like learning any new language. It takes time to absorb the subtleties of pronunciation. And even English has different shades of accents, and so does Latin. In English, we say there's potato versus potato and tomato versus tomato. They're both understandable. Um, so I wouldn't have too much anxiety about it. But at the same time, we do want to do what's according to the proper Italianate pronunciation. So it will improve over time. And as I said, we have audio recordings, etc. So with that, okay, consonants, consonantes. Um, Generally, consonants are normally hard as much as in English. Now, what that means is that these consonants here, B, D, F, H, L, M, P, Q, R, S, Q, R, S, V, X, Z, make very similar sounds in English. Okay. You don't have to worry too much about those. The exception, well, not an exception, but one thing I point out is H is always pronounced. You do not swallow your H's. So it's history, not istry, or herb, not herb. And how many have seen My Fair Lady, the movie or the play? There's a section in there where they're trying to teach Liza to say Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire hurricanes hardly happen. Okay. And her brand of English was to drop all of those. There are languages and places where H's are dropped, but we're not dropping them. We're keeping them. Q is the same as the hard K sound, but since U always follows, it's a KW sound. Okay, this is no different from English. So quick, quiet. We're going to see the word quid here pretty soon. Yeah, okay. R's are rolled a bit similar to Spanish and French. Okay. So you want to say, let's see, what's a good Rex, which means king. So if you say Christos Rex, Christ the King, you want to roll that a little bit, not too much, just a little. S is always as in set and loose. It is never like the Z in lose. So Jesus is Jesus. It's not Jesus or Jesus or any other of those Z combinations. Yeah, the Z is it's a bit like the German rolled. Yeah, the Germans roll their R's, but there's a little more guttural, I always thought. I'm replying to Robert there in the chat. Um, so Jesus, try not to make it Jesus. I realize say Jesus, we make that S a Z sound. So just be careful it doesn't leak out into your English or into your Latin. I know my English will, from time to time, leak out into my Latin, unfortunately. So what do we got here? The soft consonants. Okay, C's and G's. C's are always hard, and G's before A, O, U, or AU. So cattolica. Does anybody not recognize that Latin word? I hope not. Gaudete. See, cattolica, both are hard. Gaudete, the G is hard. But soft before A, E, E, O, E, and I. So chelum, it's not calum, it's chelum. Think back to Regina Caeli. Chelum is Chelum and Caeli are the same word. We'll talk about what that means later. Caeli is the genitive form, but we'll don't worry about that. Gemma, as in gem. And then there's two others. There's the GN. When there's a GN there, it becomes the NY sound. Yeah, like anus. Okay. If you've ever been to, well, if you've been to Annunciation, either the 9 a.m. or the 11 a.m., especially the 11 a.m., then there, of course, is the singing of the Agnus Dei. It's not Agnes, although the name Agnes is comes from the Latin Agnes, but we pronounce it Agnus. And then the TI is a T sound, okay? So grazia, not gratia, but grazia. And you see that a little bit in English when when we pronounce a TION uh, um, word, we say attention, ATTENTION. Well, that TION we really make that T soft. Ecclesiastical Latin doesn't make it that soft. It's a TS, so it'd be a tentacion. So, some examples: C, cot, C, soft, ch, like church. SC, oh, I left these out. SC is Tabasco, but an SC in front, or sorry, yeah, an SC is a sh sound, like sheep. G is hard. The soft G is like a J sound or a gem sound, depending upon how you want it. Are there any questions there? And if you have a question, feel, please feel free to ask. Don't be shy. Um, I'm not going to say there are no dumb questions because I know there's wise guys on this list who will challenge that assertion. So, and I have to include myself in the wise guy list, I suppose. All right. Yeah, like Gary, yes. All right. Here we go. Okay. Now we have a couple of other ones. We have the somewhat troublesome J. Um, the J really never existed in Latin at the begin things. Um, Oh, okay. Adam. Yes. Thought was sometimes silent. Yeah. Nos et haec. No, it's not. Okay. Uh, all right. Let me go back to that for just a second. I'm glad you've I'm glad you brought it up. Okay. The reason nope, I want you to interrupt. Well, I want you yeah, and you can raise hands. There's a I forget where it is. It's in one of your it's in one of the toolbars. It says raise hand or you can just, wait and interrupt via the microphone. I don't care. Um yeah. Yes, you will see people who will go to their death saying H's are silent. That occurred at a particular time in history, in a particular group of cultures. Okay. So when they say ecclesiastical Latin is all silent H's, they are wrong. Um, a better way of saying it is certain groups would swallow those H's. Okay, English, same thing. English, we generally pronounce our leading H's. We say hospital. We don't say hospital. We say history. We don't say history. And if you want to be considered educated in England, you really will say Hartford, Hereford, Hampshire, hurricanes never happen. Um, so yeah, there are those. Yeah, no, nothing is swallowed like in English that swallows whole syllables. Yeah, no, no, there's nothing like that. So yeah, you will see people say that. You will see, yes, that nihil is pronounced, or sorry, I think you want mihi in that first one, right? You put an N there. Yeah, mihi is mihi, nihil is nihil. The H is no, okay. See, that's another thing that happened is in some subcultures, since H's were swallowed, they put a C in front of the H in order to remind them that it's not swallowed. But that is not the way in ecclesiastical Latin today. Well, let me put it this way. Whatever it was back then, that's not how we do it today. And when you go to when we start listening to the Italianate recitation of the Familia Romana, you will see that he does not swallow his H's. So, in fact, well, we'll leave it at that. Any other questions? Feel free to ask. Okay, good. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and there's an old joke that goes like if you don't learn Latin in this life, you'll learn it in purgatory, or you'll learn it in purgatory or you'll spend your time in purgatory until you get it all learned. And so I wouldn't want you to show up at the pearly gates and Peter asks you something in Latin and you just slaughter the pronunciation. So just, keep that as keep that in your mind, back of your mind. Okay, J. The J is what's called a consonantal I. Okay. It makes a Y sound. So in English, we have the word major, right? Major. Well, it's a Latin word, but it was spelled with an I and pronounced major. Okay. Just like Jesus, pronounced with an I, pronounced Jesus, right? Which we saw earlier. It is never, never, never the English J sound. Okay. What happened is roughly in about the 13th century, Italian humanists decided to put J's in there because that way they could distinguish the J's, the vowel I and the consonant I. Okay. Um, yeah, Teresa, I know. That's particular. That seems to, yeah, Jesus is well, let's not get into that. Anyway, eventually the J worked into the ecclesiastical Latin books. Roughly the 17th and the 18th century is where you see them. That was especially useful in printing because if you printed in Latin, you'd use up all your I's. So they said, oh, well, yeah, we'll just use the J's here. Um, Older liturgical books, late 19th and early 20th century, will usually show it. For example, I have a Vulgate from printed back then. It did not use it. It kept the I's. But, if you open up, I suspect in your missals today, a lot of them will have it. Yes, monium has the swallowed into the NG sound. So monium, yes. Um, More recent liturgical books tend to go back to the historically traditional I sound. And the Familia Romana does not use J's, so it's Julius, well, it's Julius Caesar, not Julius Caesar, okay? We're not going to use it either, but if you see it, don't worry about it. It's just a different way of indicating that I versus J sound. So, any questions there? All right, on to the next one. The much less troublesome V. Okay, V in Latin is called a consonantal U. Okay, original Latin did not have a V, it had only U's. So it makes a V sound in ecclesiastical Latin and a W sound in, sorry, I think I said that backwards. A V sound in ecclesiastical Latin and a W sound in classical. So, how many have heard the phrase Veni, Vidi, Vici, or some flavor of that? I suspect a lot of you. Caesar, and I'm going to use his English name, would have said Weni, Weedy, Wiki. And I'm sorry, that sounds really strange to my ears. But Popes Benedict and Leo will say Veni, Vidi, Vici. So our V's are indeed V's, okay? Caesar would have said Vita. Christ was the life, the truth, and the way. Well, Vita is what Caesar would have said, but we say Vita. So, um, you will see V's in ancient monuments carved into stone, and that's because it's way easier to chisel out a V than a U. And then there's also the Roman numeral V, which is a 5. So over time, the use of that letter V appeared in ecclesiastical Latin. And unlike the J, which we voted off the island, V's are still preferred today in ecclesiastical Latin. The Familia Romana uses the V, and the V will be used in the place of the U's for in titles. This is Imperium Romanum. That's our first chapter. So they've kept up with the tradition of making the capitals as V's, which is what would be inscribed into the the um, monuments. So we'll use V's because U and V are very different sounds in ecclesiastical Latin. So there's probably a little bit of inconsistency, not using J's, but using V's. But again, that's what the Familia Romana uses. And that's most people today will use the V's unless you're a classical purist, and then they use U's. Any questions there?
Hi, Michael. I have a quick question. Thank you for explaining this. So, with the Roman numeral being V, was that actually meant to be a U then for the numbers?
Ah. No. And they would not, oh, by the way, they would not say U or V. They would say quinque, five.
Thank you.
Yeah. And in fact, um, look, have you ever looked at old movies or television shows and they will see copyright, M da 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 in Roman numerals? Yeah, you will always see V's there.
Thank you.
So that's another good reason to use V's. Okay. So syllables. All right. Now, every Latin word has as many syllables as it does vowels or diphthongs. This is not the case in English, not even close in English. Um, Now, why do we care? Well, we need to split the syllables correctly for two reasons. If we don't, we may herniate our tongues or we may sound very gauche. There are no silent letters whatsoever in Latin, period. In each Latin consonant, vowel, and diphthong is pronounced separately. Okay. Now, I suppose you could complain about my chart here. I say the SC becomes a sh. Okay, there, and the GN becomes a Y sound like on use. But yeah, all right. Maybe oops, we're too far. Oop, let me go back. There we go. Okay, you might have me there, but generally speaking, everything's pronounced. There isn't really anything that's silent. Okay, but we do need to get the sounds grouped right, and the rules are pretty easy. So, syllables split after vowels that are found by that are followed, excuse me, by a single consonant or vowel. So, Maria, pretty easy. Gracia. So even though that's a s sound, it is still pronounced. Jesus. All right. Um, the exceptions are where the split is between the root and the ending. And this is something like, this is like, this is about two chapters ahead in the Familia Romana. And so later on, this will make sense. For now, don't worry about it because you'll pick it up later. But I wanted to mention it in case of people who have had Latin before or seen it. It will split on the ending. Dixit, by the way, is the root is dix plus the various endings for first, second, third person, etc. But we'll get to that. Anyway, if the vowel is followed by two different consonants, then the split is between the two consonants. So, benedicta, not benedicta or benedicta. Well, that's just hard to say. So, benedicta. So you're going to split it at those two consonants. If it is a double letter, then the split is between the two letters. So, peccata, sins. So we're going to split it out. Peccata, not peccata or p. Well, and actually, by the way, that's something I should point out. Latin tends to be very, I'm going to use the word melodic, for lack of a better term. So if it's very hard to pronounce, then you're probably doing it wrong. They tend to flow very nicely. So just keep that in mind. And then the last one is tuum, which means thy, as in thy kingdom come. Tuum is pronounced tuum. Now that's a long U, so it's a tu, and then it's a short U, so tuum, and not pronounced like tomb or any other single syllable combination. Okay. And then the last one is the rare case of where you have three consonants in a row. Well, I guess it's not all that rare in the liturgy because sancta, as in holy or saint. Uh, the Holy Spirit is Spiritus Sanctus. Yes, fructus ventris tuum. Thank you, Alex, which we had going. Let's see, what chart am I on so I can pop back 16? Yes, if you recall, fructus ventris, whoops. Wait a minute. No, it's tui, genitive.
Well, the um, from
Oh,
the
I
hymn,
see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Salve Regina.
yeah, you're right. Wrong prayer. You're right. I was thinking you were pulling it from the Ave Maria, so I jumped
But
there.
it's essentially the same.
Yeah. Yeah, they're one is Jitsi. Now I forgot where I was. There we go.
But it's easier since it's to in the Salve Regina.
Yeah, you're right. Um, in compound words, the compound parts are separated. Now, again, I'm getting a little bit ahead, but this would be op est and ad est. And you'll see that the op and the odd are prefixes to the verb. And so it makes the most sense to not say a best or a dest, but op est and ad est. And we'll see that later on as well. So some of these we're getting ahead of things, but I wanted to kind of give you the flavor now. Lastly, stress and accents. This is pretty straightforward too. If the word has only two syllables, the accent always falls on the first syllable. Doesn't matter what word it is. So if you know the word amo, which means I love in Latin, it is pronounced amo, not amo. In fact, I don't think I can do this accent on the last syllable. It's kind of hard. Tricky one is if the word has three or more syllables, as a lot of them do. If the second to last syllable has a long vowel in it, then the accent is placed on that syllable. So what does that mean? Well, we talked about the word peccata, sins. One sin is peccatum, two sins are peccata. Oh, hold on. We got some late ones. There we go. So the accent, this vowel is long, so it is peccata, since the A in the second syllable is long. If the second to last syllable has a short vowel, then the previous syllable, i.e. the third syllable from the end, has the stress. So, for example, nomine, well, that's a short I. So we got to go one forward. So it is nomine, which means name. If you remember the sign of the cross, in nomine Patris. So name, nomine. Dominus, since all the vowels are short, the accent still goes on to the third one there from the end. And so you're going to stress the dominus. And it does not rhyme with nous. Try not to say dominus or moose, but rather it rhymes with mus. Dominus, or sorry, dominus. It's a short U, and you'll see a lot of people will make that a long U. And again, it's not wrong. It's just a variation accent, but it's not the best. Any questions there? And by the way, for those who arrived late, I apologize about the mess up on the Zoom link. This is being recorded. I will put it on the Annunciation YouTube channel as soon as I can and send out a link so that you can listen to it all. I don't know what happened. I tested it yesterday. It worked fine. I went to test it today and it didn't, so I don't know what happened. Okay, so let's see here. Where was I? Oh, so as I said, do not stress over this. You're going to make mistakes, and quite frankly, English occasionally leaks out of mine. I have to be careful. Sometimes the tongue is engaged before the brain is fully activated. Um, we have the recordings to practice with. Those are going to be very excellent to work with. Those are the YouTube. I don't know how many people manage to view the YouTube channel, but it's a really good source. We also have class, so if you have any questions, and try your best. It's a learning process, like any other foreign language, and practice will improve pronunciation over time. And everyone has uh, yeah, everyone has an accent. So don't, yeah, please don't say Wayne, Wayne, Emmanuel. Ooh, ouch. Please use the V. So anyway, but the only way you're going to get better is to practice, and don't be ashamed. So, give it a try. Lastly, so now we're going to give it some, sorry, let me go back one. Any questions so far on pronunciation? And do speak up or write it in the chat. And since I'm recording this, I really should repeat the question in the chat, since that doesn't go into the recording. All right. So let's look at this first part of the Ave Maria. So accent, and I put the accents in here. Okay, just they're a little hard to see. Oh, whoops, sorry. Hold on, let me fix that. That accent goes there, just so there's no, there we go. Mistake about it. So Ave, long A, V-E. What about the macarons, Teresa? Yes, the macarons are there. Do you have your audio working, Teresa? Probably not. I've been seeing your exchange with Alex. If you're speaking into your microphone, Teresa,
No, I had something pop up on my computer and I had to get past it. No, I missed the first part of the class. I wasn't sure if you had covered macrons and what they were.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes. And for those who came in late, I probably can't apologize enough. See, where did I put the macrons? Oh, no, they are here. Yeah. Yeah, line over the vowel means it's line. And this is the same as in English, well, certainly the same as in English. And then if it's a brave or a little cup thing or whatever you want to call it, it is short. So yes, I did that. And the macarons, as I said, I'm gonna use the macarons as much as I can, because it keeps me honest, and it will, as we introduce more and more Latin words, it will help you to get the pronunciation right. And the Familia Romana uses it religiously. So hit the Hail Mary. Hey, Maria. Whoops, I'm getting feedback. So let me mute. There we go. Sorry. Ave Maria. Roll that R slightly. Gratia plena Dominus tecum. Would anybody who is new to Latin care to give that a try?
I'll give it a shot.
Can I?
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Najib. Go ahead.
Thank you. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum.
Good. But make that a short O. Dominus. And I know you,
Dominus.
by the way, I saw you got in late, so I apologize for the Zoom link message. Yeah, see, this is a short O. Now you're gonna, and as I said earlier in the class, you will hear the Dominus because that is the accented syllable, and it's natural in English to make a accented syllable the vowel long, but it's actually a short O. Yes. Well, you need to, yeah, but excellent otherwise. Any other volunteers? Okay,
Give it a shot.
go ahead.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum.
Yeah. Plena. A little more E in that.
Plena.
And let's see here. Okay, I see the hand raised, and why can't I activate it? Hold on. Yeah, go ahead, Ethan. You can unmute.
Wouldn't the V in Ave be Awe?
Hold on here. So ask that again. There was a lot of here. Let me do some. Oh, here. I'm going to mute everybody because I'm getting feedback. So then unmute and ask your question. All right, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Mm.
Go ahead.
Would the V in Ave be a W?
You mean, would it be Awe?
Yeah.
No, not in Ecclesiastic. Have you had classical Latin? Have you had Latin in like school?
A little?
Pardon?
Just a little?
Ah, that's classical Latin. Yeah, okay. I didn't want to go into the differences between classical and ecclesiastical Latin because I didn't want to blow everybody's brain circuits. Yeah, I talked briefly about that in an earlier slide. Yeah, here it is. Yeah. So classical Latin would pronounced veni vidi vici as weni vidi vici. So O come Emmanuel would be, instead of veni veni Emmanuel, would be weni weni Emmanuel. And I guarantee you will not hear that in, well, any church I would go to anyway. So in classical Latin, Caesar would have made that sound a W sound, okay, like weni weedy weeki. But in ecclesiastical Latin, the V's really are V's. And that's one of the reasons why we use those V's in our text. Does that answer your question?
Yes. What?
Good.
Yes.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
Yes, I can't find the hand up button. Maybe you can show me later. I know you haven't covered the multiple syllables where the accent is, but why is Maria have the accent in the center syllable, but Grazia, which also has 3 syllables, has it at the beginning?
Ah, I did. I, I can chastise her. She's my wife. Isn't that what a spouse is for? Anyway, no, seriously. No, I did. Now, Maria The second syllable, second from the end, is long. Okay, that is a long I. So that's where it gets accented. Maria. Whoops, why did I put a dash there? There we go. Maria. Okay, now grazia, that is a short I. So we have to go to the syllable in front in order to accent it. Grazia. All right. And that was actually on, yeah, slide 17. So, yeah. Yeah. So if the word has three or more syllables and let's see, just to be clear, in ecclesiastical Latin, it would be no, it would not be. Okay, the question is, just to be clear, in ecclesiastical Latin, would it be dominus? No, it is dominus. I'm kind of overemphasizing because let's see, I had it here. Where'd I put it? Oh, there it is. See, that is a short O, that is a short I, and that is a short U. Okay. It rhymes with mus, or maybe, yeah. Doesn't rhyme with noose. It's not domi noose. It is domi. Sorry, now I'm putting the wrong vowels. It is dominus. Us. If it were a long U, it would be dominus. Okay. And in fact, good example, like platypus. Yeah, kind of like platypus. In fact, spiritus uses the long U. We'll get into that later though. But dominus is the short U for now. Any other? Okay. Couple of other things here. And we have a little time that I'm gonna jump into the first part of the Familia Romana here. I wasn't sure how far we got, and that might actually clear up some of your questions. Is Latin hard to learn? Yes and no. Any foreign language is hard to learn, especially if you've never learned one other than your native tongue. Because essentially you need new words for everything, and there's a new grammar. So that's always going to be an issue. On the upside, English has lots and lots of Latin roots in their words. So we as native English speakers, and I realize not all of you are, have a great advantage over most other languages. And I really mean German, Russian, and Asian, the non-Romance languages. The Romance languages directly came from Latin, so they have oodles of words too. But for example, any tion, sion word in English is from Latin. So we know, well, what's the name of our church? Annunciation. In Latin, that is Annunciatio. Now, the reason there is an NIS in there is that's something called the genitive form. We'll learn that in the future. Don't worry about it. But I wanted to pick a nice example, Annunciatio, pronunciation, pronunciatio. Okay. We have consonants, consonantes. Okay. You can recognize that word without needing a Latin dictionary, right? Oh, introductio, introduction. So you have lots and lots of words in English that have Latin roots, and that will help you considerably. Now, the downside is Latin grammar has things English simply does not, okay? And if you go to the various places, they generally rank Spanish as being the easiest, at least from the perspective of Western European. But Latin is then way easier than German or even French. And having had some of each of all of those, I would agree with that. I found Latin to be easier than German. That's not to say German and French are, well, I found Latin to be way easier than German or French, which is surprising. But
Michael?
Yeah.
I have a thought going back to your discussion about why Grazia and Maria are different in where the accent is. It occurred to me that in the word Dominus, if you had a long O and a long I in that word, wouldn't the accent be on the second syllable?
Yeah.
So
it'd be something like Dominus.
Yeah, so that exemplifies the point that you're making.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. So tell you what, let's normally I would have various people read and we'd have a little pronunciation practice. I think what I'm going to do is maybe we ought to listen to the first section of the Familia Romana. And I happen to have that queued up. So give me just a second to switch over. Let's see here. Take me just a second. There we go. And I got to go there. And I got to close that. And then I'll go to Zoom. Go away. There we go. And we're going to say share and there. All right. Can everybody see that okay? Oh, actually, let me put that over there. There we go. There we go. All right. Oh, I wanted to do one other. Oh, shoot. I wanted to do one other thing. Hold on just a second. Okay. Let's see if I can share that as well. Hold on. Before we get started, I need to do a little window arranging. Yeah, I know it. There we go. Hold on. There we go. Unfortunately, they omitted the map in this particular. So there and there. There we go. All right. So this is basically going to be a geography lesson, and I thought I would bring up the map that's in your book. You can see the places they're talking about. Most of the names should already be familiar. Okay, Britannia. I presume everybody knows that that is what we would call Great Britain. Back then, it really just meant England proper. Germania, Germany. Europa, and there's the capital U being a V. Italia, pretty easy. Asia, Asia. Africa. So let me start this and let's see if I...
Capitulum primum, Imperium Romanum.
There we go.
Roma in Italia est.
Hold on.
Italia in Europa est.
I want to zoom this to the full... Is it theater mode? There we go. That's the one I wanted. Sorry. Is the audio coming through okay?
Yes.
Good. Let me restart.
Capitulum primum, Imperium Romanum. Roma in Italia est. Italia in Europa est. Grecia in Europa est. Italia et Grecia in Europa sunt. Hispania quoque in Europa est. Hispania et Italia et Grecia in Europa sunt.
Okay, so I think that should be largely understandable. Any questions on meaning? Feel free to chime in.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Um, with the ET, it sounded like he was saying etta. Is it, or is it just et?
Et.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have just misheard it.
Well, yeah, keep in mind it is Hispania et Italia. So
He comes across to me as an Italian native, and he's got a little bit of that Italian accent in with his ecclesiastical Latin.
well, no, he is Italian.
Explains the et. I mean, that's kind of what they do.
Well, I don't think it's I didn't hear an etta.
I heard a little bit of it when I first found this. So yeah, I agree. I agree with Ryan. There's a little bit of an Italian
He
accent.
aligns the consonant with the vowel that follows it.
Oh yeah. I agree with that. Where the et follow or the Italia follows immediately after the et. So, okay. But Roma in Italia est. Rome is in Italy. Hopefully everybody is familiar with that. Italia in Europa est. Italia, and this is of course Europe. Now, one thing he does do is he swallows that I. He says Grecia. It really should be Grecia. It's a short I, so it is very, very short. You don't make it nice and long. And his is so fast that I question whether it's in there. So I would say Grecia in Europa Est. If you want to say Grecia, fine. He does distinguish, let's see, later on, well, never mind. So Italia et Grecia in Europa sunt. So is, are. Hispania quoque in Europa est. Spain also is in Europe. Hispania et Italia in Grecia in Europa sunt. Now, when you listen to this, I'm translating this only because I want to make sure everybody's following along. Don't think of it in English. Because if you sit there and you say Roma in Italia est, and you say your brain, okay, Rome is Rome, or Roma is Rome, and Italia is Italy, and est is, and oh yes, he's saying Rome is in Italy. Well, if you do that, then he'll be down here in Egypt shortly, by the time you get around to it. So you really want to think in the language you are working in, not in English. And that'll take a little bit of practice if you've never learned a foreign language. So
that's why reading it out loud is helpful.
Yes, and what I'm gonna later on we'll talk about how best to not this chapter, sorry, not this session, but the next session. I'm going to talk about how best to use the Familia Romana and the videos, and that is exactly that, is to read it and to listen to it and absorb it. Try and absorb, a good example. Let me say a good example. If I say the word dog, everybody mentally has a picture of a dog in their brain, or at least they associate those sounds with dogs. You're not translating it. It's, well, if I say canine, hopefully canine is dog, so you don't have to translate it. Well, in Latin, if I say canus, that's the Latin word for dog, and that's why we get the word canine, by the way. Instead of saying canus is dog, your brain should say, that means dog. So saying Roma in Italia est is the same as saying Rome is in Italy, but you're saying it in Latin, and you don't need to work in English because you want to work in Latin. Does that make sense? Comments from people who are new to Latin?
Basically, you want us to think the pictures in our head when we hear the word in Latin instead of translating it to an English word and then seeing the picture.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And later on, we'll do some conversational. Well, we'll later on, again, we'll get into this next session. We'll have questions and answers. I'll say something like uh, "Ubi est Roma?" Where is Rome? And then you'll all say Roma in Italia est, or in Italia est. There's different answers. So, let's see here. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Adam has a very good question. Thank you, Adam. We'll let him stay after class and clean the erasers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we are going to use the Familia Romana. Now, you're right. Roma, pretty easy. Italia, pretty easy. Europa, yeah, pretty easy. But and Hispania, you probably may have heard the word for Spain before. Quoque. And you're right. What you need to do is
Egyptus in Europa non est.
Do not double click on the word. Hispania quoque in Europa est. You're right. It means also. And what that means is you recognize from the context what that should be. And that's the way you want to use this, okay? And you may need to read it more than once, okay? I mean, obviously, okay, probably tomorrow, let's see, found a free PDF. Oh, you're talking about, Sarah, you're talking about a copy of the Familia Romana in PDF form?
Yes, I was able to find one online.
Okay, now I have one, and this is why this is one thing I wanted to ask. Normally, I'm going to send out the complete notes after the chapter. Now, this first pronunciation one is an exception because it's not really a chapter, so I'll send it out here in the next few days. But I have the PDF as well. What I can do is I can slice off the chapter and send it out. I don't have a problem with it. As long as everybody has the book, I don't have a problem with that. Okay. Would that be helpful? Because then you can put that in a notebook and annotate it and scribble all over it. And I'm the type of person that is firmly convinced that writing in one of your books is, up there with the 7 deadly sins. It's the 8th deadly sin is writing in books. I guess, I was brought up that way. So what can I say? But this would be a good way to do that. So I will send those out then. And yes, you can. Now, the other thing, all right, let me point out something, and this is for Adam. Give me just a second, Adam. I got to find it. Where did I put it? Okay. Oh, there it is. Do I have it in the... Oh, here it is. Okay. Here it is. All right, let me switch the share to... Where'd it go? Ah, there it is. Okay, let me fix this a little bit. Of course, that's in the way. All right, here we go. This is the PDF. It's black and white. This, I believe, is actually an older edition. I have not found any differences other than it's black and white and the new oh, Zoom just pops up. You're speaking Italian, right? No. I tell you, software that tries to be excessively helpful is a pain. Anyway, so here it is. So this is the first chapter. This will have pictures, okay? And that's going to help. And it will have margin notes that will help. And it will also have a little bit of stuff there on the side. We'll talk about this. I'm going to talk about more about this later. And at the end, it has something called the Grammatica Latina, which we will go through after we do the readings. I want you to read first, then study the grammar. But last is here it is, the vocabulary. These are all the words in the chapter. And so feel free to scribble on them, write on them. Sometimes you do need to simply say, oh, fluvius, and you need to write river in there. Insula is island. Do your best to pick it up from context, okay? And if all else fails, when the next class crops up, ask about it in class. We will talk about Latin dictionaries eventually. Right now, I want to set all Latin dictionaries to the side because I don't want people to use them as a crutch, okay? The elegance of the Familia Romana is page through it. It's all in Latin. You could take that book and hand it to somebody in Italy or Spain or England or France or Germany or wherever, and it would be the same edition. The only thing that would be different would be the copyright and the stuff on the front. So yes, yeah. So think about this. Quoque, Hispania quoque in Europa est. So what? And part of the genius is this is a story. Okay. Now it starts out with, it's a story about a Roman family. Well, they're setting the context here in Rome just to give you a feel for the geography. You have on the Leo in chat. Oh, interesting. Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, so I try not to, try to look at the words and read through, maybe not just that one sentence, but several sentences. So, Egyptus in Europa non est. So we've seen all the places that are in various locations. Well, now we have Egyptus in Europa non est. Well, we know what Egypt is. We know what Europe is. And we know that Egypt is not in Europe. So, Egyptus in Europa non est, Egyptus in Africa est. Gallia non in Africa est. So, reading through, Syria non est in Europa, sed in Asia. Arabia quoque in Asia est. So there's that quoque again. So I think you will find that it will be apparent for a lot of the words, not necessarily all of them. So as we go on deeper into the chapters, I'm sure there's some you may not be able to pick up. But at this point, I'm trying to train you into working and thinking and reading in Latin. And, the questions are, and it's what's the word I want? Not didactic. There's a word for this. I can't think of what it is. So anyway, Esne Nilus in Europa. Nilus, Nile. Nilus in Europa non est. So as you work your way through, you should be able to pick up most of that. And you do have the vocabulary. And what I recommend is you review that vocabulary. And what I'm going to recommend is you spend every day, try to spend 15, 20, 30 minutes, depending upon your schedule and whatever. I mean, some days you can't do that. And by the way, on class days, you get full credit for that 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Read through it again, listen to it, look at the vocabulary. Okay. When we get all done, we will do the exercises. Whoop, where are the exercises? Yeah, there they are. I have exercise. I have these in a convenient form, and we'll go through them at least for this chapter, just so everybody gets the hang of everything. So that's kind of where we are. I realize that was a long about way of answering your question, Stephen. So, but yes. Sorry, Adam, not Stephen. Excuse me. All right, so um yes, Jess asks a very good question. So when you say review the vocabulary, you don't mean attribute the English translation to each word, but try to summon a picture in your head, or yeah, and it doesn't have to be a picture, it can be a concept. It's like the verb est is. So you'd think more of a concept there. And yes, now you may need to write some in, okay? You may be hung up on, let's see, what's a good word? Well, this is kind of a bad example because most of these are pretty easy. Quoque. All right, we'll use Adam's example. Quoque. Let's see, it's in here someplace. Or it should be. Ah, there it is. Quoque. You may actually need to write beside that also. All right. That's okay. For some words, you're going to have to write that in there. But hopefully writing that in there will help. And lastly, I recommend you write stuff out. I'm going to talk, well, we're out of time. I'll talk about that in the second class. And for those that got in late, I apologize for the screw up on the Zoom link. Don't know what happened, but anyway, we are done. So I want to finish up. So let me go back to the notes. So there we go. So just like okay. So pro classe proxima for next class. Yes, use the same Zoom link from here on out. I will send it again just because of the confusion. I really don't know what happened. I'm kind of steamed at it, but what can I say? I'm sure there's quite a few people that didn't make it because of that mess. Yes, I will post the recording, and I will post the notes, and I will post the actually I email the notes, and I will post a link to the recording, and I will do that before the weekend is out. So listen to the recording. You want is that as in PDF, Lewis? Yeah, it'll be in PDF format. And what I plan to do is I'm going to take it'll be black and white, and I'm going to put 2 of these pages per single 8.5 by 11 page. And that way you won't get totally inundated by class notes, and they're still very readable. And yes, it'll be PDF. I deal everything in PDF. So Microsoft Word is a 4-letter word in my vocabulary. So with that, let's finish up. Precatio finialis. All right, let me mute everybody. Read along and give it a good try. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. And that is the official end of the class. Let me stop the recording.